Hello and welcome to a review of one of my favorite books of all time, The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. This book I have read and reread a couple of times, and you know it's a good book because almost every page has an event that I deemed to be worthy of remembrance, and so I put a bookmark in it. So it's a very interesting book. For a long time, I had this book as my favorite book of all time. So let's get into the review. The Book Thief revolves around the life of Liesel Meminger. Now, I may be pronouncing that wrong. It may actually be Meminger. In any case, I'll leave the name on the screen so you can have a look for yourself. So it is January 1939. The Second World War is just about to break out. And a string of unfortunate circumstances forces Liesel's mother to have to give up her two children for adoption. The children are taken by this family known as the Habermans, who live in a town called Malking. It's actually spelled as Malching, but then it's pronounced Malking as far as I can tell. During the journey to Malking, a set of rather tragic events leads Liesel to discover something half buried in the snow. It's a book, The Gravedigger's Handbook, and Liesel's life will never be the same again from that moment. So eventually she gets to Malking, and the story kind of revolves around the people of Malking, how they cope and how they go about their lives at such a perilous and a difficult time. It is life under a dictatorship. It's a time of hate, a time of propaganda, a time of war, a time of extreme insecurity, and a time of betrayal. So Liesel has to acquaint herself with her new family and kind of get to know her surroundings, make friends in the neighborhood. Just when you think events cannot get more tense and cannot get more dangerous and perilous, there is a knock on the door of the Liesel household in the depth of night. And a gentleman is seeking refuge. This gentleman is a Jew, and his history is inextricably linked with the life of Liesel's adoptive father, Hans Haberman. They have no choice but to let him in. It's an expose of life under darkening skies. So you get a very closed-in perspective of life in Nazi Germany. When we think of that period in time, we tend to focus on the big global events that were happening at the time. But then Markus Zusak does an excellent job, and he takes us to a particular street in a particular city. He builds these characters that we love, and he puts them in that city. And from then, it's a different perspective altogether, in the sense that you see characters that you love live in a time that is so sad and depressing and seriously unsafe. You can see the actions, the decisions, and the beliefs of Adolf Hitler have a profound effect on the life of every character. Like whatever he does, whatever he believes, whatever decision he makes, literally alters the destiny of the characters that you love. It leaves a very deep and profound impression. To the things I loved about this book. Now, the very first thing I loved about this book, which makes it very particular and to stand out from any other book you would read within the genre or even without the genre, is the main character, Liesel herself. Liesel is a book lover, like someone who just has that inexplicable love for books. Now, this is something I suppose not many people will understand, but the few that get it would get it. The pleasure of going to the library, picking up a book and smelling it and just opening the page and running your hands across the spines of books on a shelf. Just that experience of loving books, of being close to books, of having some kind of inexplicable connection to books is captured beautifully by Markus Zusak. Liesel loves books, and they kind of give her a reprieve from all the sadness and uncertainty that is going on about her. I connected profoundly to Liesel in that aspect, especially coming from a background or a place where I could never get as many books as I wanted for a plethora of reasons that I will not go into. So I really enjoyed it. I connected with the main character, which is why I loved this book more than anything else. The second reason I love this book, the book is narrated by Death. Death is literally narrating the story and telling you about the characters. Now, this very use of Death as the narrator of the novel has come under some scrutiny and criticism from some people or some readers who say that Death has an annoying tendency to give away the fate of the character even before it happens. So, for example, Death will tell you at the end of a scene which involves heavily some character, Death will tell you this young man would then go on to die at so and so battle when the war starts. And for a lot of people, it spoils the suspense. It takes away that emotional punch when that event eventually, happens. So for some people, Death as a narrator kind of like takes away from, the book. But I have read this book a couple of times, and I personally did not feel so. I felt that the use of Death as a narrator was inch perfect, and that it totally captured what exactly was the intention of the author. I realized that this book is not written to be experienced as every other book. It's not written for you to have to experience joy and uncertainty and excitement and all of these things that come with the usual adventure books. The purpose of the book is just for you to get to know these characters. The author wants the reader to establish a connection with these characters, to see how their lives went, to see what happened to them, to see their sufferings, their struggles, their dreams, their hopes, and their aspirations, and how everything eventually came crashing down in that period. It's not really written to be the adventure novel as people tend to want their books to be. So using Death as a narrator accomplishes that with immeasurable accuracy. The fact that you know that the character is going to die kind of makes his life more meaningful, kind of makes you more willing to connect with that character. You see what he does with the short time he has on earth, and every regret, every mistake, every wrong decision, every wrong move he makes, it's just more painful to you when you know that he's not going to have the time to go back and atone for them. So it was a very emotional read. At the end of A Book Thief, I took a break from reading for about 2 weeks, which is it's a very long break. Just to let the story kind of sink into my bones and to let my body process it before I move on to another one. So it's a highly recommended book. I would give this a 4.5 out of 5. It's a very good book. It's highly recommended. The Book Thief, Markus Zusak. Thank you for watching. There will be more book reviews and recommendations coming up on this channel, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Get you a copy of The Book Thief by Markus Zusak.